So it's been a long time since I covered anything Digimon related, and since this just smacked me up earlier, I suppose we can cover one of Saban's strangest adaptations to the series, Digimon the Movie.
The Digivolution is up and running. Did you see? Did you hear? Did you know what's coming? A Digi-Destiny starts today.
This movie is actually a compilation of 3 movies, each edited to collectively fit the standard runtime of an American animated feature. This was due to 20th Century Fox eyeing the success of Pokemon in its movie runs, while the Digimon films it had were nowhere near as long. That's because they were featurettes by Toei, which would last just under an hour at best. Fox was under a contract from Toei to merge the first 3 Digimon movies into one, and what Saban ended up with is comparable to Space Thunder Kids, which puts different space anime together to form a new narrative. The 3 movies in the compilation are Digimon Adventure, the short film, not the anime, Our War Game, which it and the first movie were by Mamoru Hosoda, and Hurricane Touchdown, which was directed by Shigeyasu Yamauchi. The total runtime of these films is about 2 hours long, but Digimon the Movie powers them down to collectively total 88 minutes. That said, I am using a recent high-definition collection from Discotek Media that includes all 3 movies plus the Saban compilation, which has new dubs but with most of the original cast. That's kinda mind-blowing to have a voice actor giving one performance for a character in 2000 before coming back and doing it again 24 years later. I will take time to point out a few differences between the dubs. What I won't do is spend much time on the most important short to ever exist from everyone's favorite Canadian cartoon, Angela Anaconda.
Prepare for battle, you pathetic Pukemons! But first, let's make some concessions. After all, refills are free, right, Kinemon?
Yeah, this was a 4-minute short released before the movie, which only exists because the show would air on Fox Kids along with the Digimon anime. And I know there was at least one episode that had them cosplay as Digimon characters. If not, then maybe just the short itself. Anyway, let's move on to the first movie, Digimon Adventure. It's a feature-length version of an event that the Digidestined mentioned in the anime, where as younger kids, they witnessed a battle between a Greymon and Parrotmon near their homes. That was how they became the Digidestined who would come to the digital world, and this movie provides more detail as to what led up to that Digimon clash. It all started 4 years ago before the main story, when Kairi, voiced by Laura Jill Miller, and her older brother Ty, voiced by Joshua Seth, see an egg emerge from a computer. What felt like a dream turned out to be real, because we see Kairi wake up with the egg, which hatches into Botamon. It later digivolves into Koromon during the day, which was when it befriends Tai and Kairi, before digivolving into Agumon at night, which is when it started to wander around town and cause some chaos. Things got serious when the aforementioned Parrotmon also appeared and started wrecking things, leading to Agumon digivolving into Greymon and fighting back against the monster, with the future Digidestined bearing witness. Tai and Kairi helped Greymon through the power of friendship, and the battle ends when both Mons just vanish. On its own, this movie is a flashy little promo to get audiences aboard the upcoming TV anime, at least in Japan. But the Saban dub changed around a lot of how the movie told its story and emphasized different details. Kairi has a larger role as the narrator and perspective character over her brother Tai, which isn't crazy since she's part of all 3 movies, but the real change comes from inserting an American kid named Willis, voiced by Bob Glauberman, who was seen getting 2 Digimon from an egg instead of 1. This is the main way that the Saban version ties the first movie with the other 2 films. Other edits are pretty standard for a Saban dub, because Saban Entertainment made its money from licensing music for American cartoons. It switched out the movie soundtrack with some of its own. Other times, like for the opening of the second movie, it just uses pop music.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me.
There's also a lot of characters talking over each other, even when it isn't necessary. And there's the serious trimming to make the compilation last under an hour and a half. At least the cut did not trample on the main appeal of the Digimon Adventure series, which combines the childlike whimsy of a mysterious digital pet that can grow with a kid to fight bigger and badder monsters. Still, compared to how the first Digimon Adventure movie whetted the appetite for the anime of the same name, this movie isn't so much an appetizer as it is for people who are already fans of the franchise. It goes without saying that these movies aren't meant to be stitched together like this just to serve as a competitor against Pokemon movies. Anyway, let's move on to the second movie segment, our war game, or children's war game, which takes place 7 months after the events of the anime. I've covered this movie in the past with Zen at length, so here's a brief summary of the plot. Izzy, voiced by Mona Marshall, finds a Digi-Egg infected with a virus from the internet, which may or may not be caused by
aliens. I'm not saying it was aliens, but...
Don't you dare say it was aliens! And it actually wasn't. This was the same kind of egg that gave us Parrotmon last time. And in this instance, it hatches into Kuramon, which starts eating up digital data and rapidly evolving into its mega form, Diaboromon. At first, only Tai and Izzy are able to do anything with their old Digimon, which they reconnected with via the internet, while the other Digidestined are unavailable for one reason or another. We have to wait a while until Matt and TK, voiced by Michael Reyes and Wendy Lee respectively, realize what's going on and try to help, after they find a computer in the countryside that has good internet access. The final battle boils down to Tai, Matt, and their respective Digimon making a last stand against Diaboromon. They lose at first, only for War Greymon and Metal Garurumon to merge into the almighty Omnimon. But the real turning point is when children from all over the world send a buttload of emails to give Diaboromon lag issues. It's a digital fantasy story, so go with it, which gives Omnimon a chance to defeat the villain before it can deploy American ICBMs and destroy their city. If you were only watching our war game, this was how the story ends. But remember the brief allusion to Willis in the first segment? Well, the Saban dub inserts him into the plot again. It's part of the scene where, regardless of which version we have, they mention a child prodigy contacting Izzy about the hatched Digi-Egg, though where the kid came from depends on which version.
He's smart, though. He's only in elementary school, but he's already taking classes at Colorado State.
So what? I'm in junior high school and I take classes at junior high school.
They're smart, though. They're only elementary school age, but they're already taking classes at a local college.
I'm in elementary school, too, and I take classes at elementary school, like a normal person.
There are parts of the Saban dub that work well enough to not warrant major changes for the new dub. I don't just mean knowing enough Japanese to properly get the story across the audience, it's also about writing the dialogue that can naturally fit with the lip flaps from characters. But there are parts of the Saban dub that are childishly unnecessary or weird.
Hi, I made beef jerky shake. I'm glad someone appreciates my recipes.
But the biggest change of all, and one that affects the plot of the third movie, is Diaboromon itself. In the original, it rarely spoke, usually just leaving emails and such. But here...
Not so fast.
In the new dub, Diaboromon only talks when calling out attack names or digivolving. In the Saban dub, it can speak in complete sentences. This could be a product of it being smarter as it absorbs more data, though just communicating via email to our heroes was pretty creepy as is. Anyway, we get one more mention of Willis when he emails Izzy about how our heroes can defeat Diaboromon.
Sorry, this is all my fault. Find a way to slow him down.
What's he mean his fault?
I don't know.
So this wild Digimon that originally came from an egg in the sky was because of some kid we barely know about? Why is it after Willis, and how did this kid create that Digimon in the first place? We also hear that Willis can hack the Pentagon and learn about the ICBMs that Diaboromon was trying to use. Even by Digimon standards, I find that extremely hard to believe. Come to think of it, Kairi is still the narrator of this segment despite being a minor character in our war game. How does she know all of this?
It just raises too many questions.
If Saban Entertainment had no choice but to merge movies into something feature-length, it should have stuck to Digimon Adventure and our war game. Tai is the main character for both, and the other Digidestined appeared in both to varying degrees, but no. They had to go with the three-way style either because of Toei or whoever else was in charge. This is what makes the third segment an odd fit with the other two. The original movie prior to the editing is called Hurricane Touchdown, whose Japanese release was split into 2 parts. Since this is the first time I'm reviewing this movie, I'm dedicating more of this video to cover it. It takes place in Digimon's second anime, Digimon Adventure 02, whose story picks up 3 years after Adventure 1 and sidelines most of the original Digidestined cast. Of that old team, only TK and Kairi are members of the new one. Just from the animation style alone, you can see that this is supposed to be its own movie, and the change is quite jarring. Anyway, we see Willis, who lives in Colorado, with his 2 partner Digimon. At least one of them, Kokomon, disappeared one day while playing in a flower field. In the original, this disappearance took place in 1995, but in the Saban dub, Willis lost Kokomon in the year 2000. So he's left with his Gummymon, although the movie calls it Terriermon, despite that being the rookie evolution from Gummymon. This is all we're getting from the story because this movie, being an hour long originally with 2 parts, is trimmed down to just over half an hour. That barely gives us time to acclimate with the new characters from 02 and really screws with the plot, and you'll see why. Speaking of new characters, we cut over to the new Digidestined. First is Davis, voiced by Brian Donovan, and his partner Digimon Demi-Vmon. Even though TK and Kairi are more experienced Digidestined, he serves as the energetic team leader. Next is Yoli, voiced by Tiffany Christian, and her partner Poromon. And finally Cody, voiced by the late Felix Sampler, and his partner Upamon. I should note that these Digimon are in their in-training form, so we'll see their default rookie versions later. These 3 are taking a break from their role as Digidestined, and now we cut to an older Kairi and TK, now voiced by Doug Erholtz, who are in New York with their partners Patamon and Gatomon to meet Mimi, also voiced by Felice Sampler, who was part of the original Digidestined team from Adventure. Or that would be the case, but not in this version.
Smile! Not again.
Why is that computer hanging off like that? Well, I'll tell you. This is because we're getting some serious rifts between the original plot and what the Saban dub did to it. So in the Japanese story, all the old Digidestined, save for TK and Kairi, were whisked away by the titular hurricane that also took Kokomon away. The Saban dub completely ignores this detail to make TK and Kairi going to New York look like a social call for someone who was supposed to be abducted. At least those 2 feel something is amiss before we cut to Willis, who's also older now, confronting a Wendigomon, who he recognizes as his Kokomon. In the original, Wendigomon doesn't talk, but here...
Back to what?
Doesn't really matter where you go.
Say what you want about 4Kids, they tried using their own music or covers from time to time. This just feels obnoxious for a major fight scene. Anyway, this fight draws the attention of TK and Kairi. They try heading over, but the fight ends when they arrive. Willis ends up bailing, so Patamon follows him. In the other version, we would see the original Adventure team members in some kind of strange dimension. Over time, Tai and the others de-age back to what they look like in Digimon Adventure, and then even further, but we'll get back to that. For now, only Patamon manages to tail Willis, who calls his mother about going to Colorado for summer camp. Kairi gets wind of this and tells the rest of her new team to rendezvous with her and TK in Colorado. Here we get different dialogue depending on the dub.
Alright, Yoli, explain to me one more time why we have to stop in 3 different cities.
We're using my uncle's frequent flyer miles, and certain restrictions apply.
Not only did Tai disappear, but apparently so have all the original Digidestined, except Kairi and TK, weirdly.
The Saban dub also cuts out a lot of Willis and Terriermon, remarking on how Kokomon isn't the same as he used to be. So instead they speculate on what Wendigomon meant by going back, and they realize that it meant returning to their old home. But there's still that rapport between those 2 to show how close they are as friends.
I don't suppose you could turn into a glass of lemonade too, could you?
No, but I know a trick to make lemon snow cones. Sorry. TK and Kairi then get attacked by Wendigomon, who in the original also made a bunch of other people disappear. But since we can't actually show that happening in this version, because we're working with an altered story, this was just a show of force to slow those 2 down by wrecking the train they're on. Meanwhile, Davis, Cody, and Yoli end up overshooting where they need to be, but plot convenience kicks in when they get a truck to pick them up, which also has Willis and Terriermon. Our 3 heroes obviously don't know who those 2 are, but Willis and Terriermon are happy to have some company.
Wow,
in America, they have Digimon by the truckload.
Our Digimon like each other.
By the way, something evil is after us, so no pressure, okay? The original has Willis express surprise that there are Digimon from Japan, which is ironic on so many levels. It's going to sound even weirder as the Adventure 02 anime goes on, when there turns out to be a lot of Digidestined all over the world, but that's neither here nor there. There's also the question on how an American boy can converse with 3 Japanese kids. Well, at least according to the new dub, there is a reason.
What are the odds you'd understand us?
Oh, well, I had a girlfriend from Japan once.
Naturally, this version cuts any mention of the missing Digidestined. And when the original story has Willis on the phone with his mom to reassure her, we get this instead.
Hi, I'd like to order a large pizza for delivery with mushroom sausage, pepperoni, pineapple, Canadian bacon, anchovies, and green peppers.
Here again, there's supposed to be another scene with the OG cast, but the Saban dub removed that too. Also, you may notice with how this scene is edited, the area they seem to be in keeps changing from grassy area to sandy area.
Space is warped and time is bendable.
Now, Digimon the movie did an okay job with staying faithful to the plots of the first 2 movies, but this does not hold for this segment. There's supposed to be a lot more story to tell, but this version's runtime is dwindling, so more stuff is left on the cutting room floor. Anyway, Wendigomon shows up. Davis's Vmon does an armor evolution into Flamedramon, but not before some really dumb idea goes sideways.
We'll attack him from the air! All right, we gotcha! Watch out for that sign!
Okay, this was originally a scene from after the fight, when Davis wanted to play with the 2 Digimon but got into an accident. This was meant to be a moment of levity in contrast to how on edge the original team was towards Wendigomon. Then there's this detail.
Cable Crusher.
Cable Crusher was also the name of an attack from Diaboromon. I guess the Saban dub wanted to connect that villain with Wendigomon, but you're gonna wish that it didn't try. For now, Willis tries stopping the Wendigomon by telling it that he's trying to go back, but in the original version, he was trying to get it to recognize him. This ties into one of the themes of Hurricane Touchdown, but we'll get to that. Terriermon responds by digivolving into Gargomon, much to Willis's surprise.
Huh? He's got pants now.
Anyway, Gargomon pushes Wendigomon back and causes it to retreat. This is when Willis comes clean and gets Davis up to speed on what's going on. Speaking of speed, Vmon does an armor evolution to become Ragermon, and that's how Davis's side of the team managed to get to their destination. When they catch up to the others, Davis complains that Kairi and TK aren't here yet, and finally, Willis is going to tell them about who Kokomon was given who keeps attacking them. But first, more comparisons. Earlier in the original, Terriermon mentioned how Wendigomon was abducting people and de-aging them in order to look for Willis as a kid. Later, we learned that he was trying to follow Willis home through his Digivice, which the other kids had, and why he was taking them. Davis, through enough pestering Willis, finally learns Kokomon's origins as being born from the same egg as his brother, only to disappear years ago. There's no explanation for it going missing or turning evil, but Willis is hoping that his other partner Digimon can return to normal. Davis hears all this and breaks down because he empathizes with him and wouldn't want to be in a position where he would have to fight Vmon.
I couldn't do it. Even if Vmon turned into a monster I couldn't recognize, and he went on a horrible rampage, I would never be able to take my partner down.
I'm the one with the problem, not you. I have to believe that if we meet again, in that same familiar flower field, Kokomon might just turn back into who he was before.
Yeah!
Davis wasn't my favorite team leader in the 02 anime, but this is one of his better moments because he gives voice to something that the audience can relate to. And while the scene itself in the Saban dub is okay, it's choppier because of all the cuts to the other parts of the story. The most notable chop was when Willis had to explain how he got his hands on Kokomon and Gummymon.
I thought it would be cool to have more of them, so I got the stupid idea of creating a Digi-Egg on the computer. Before my Digi-Egg could hatch, it was attacked by a virus, and it mutated into Diaboromon. The virus somehow tracked us down and dragged Kokomon away from me. I watched helplessly for 4 years as he slowly became this terrible monster.
There's only so many ways I can say, what the fuck, people?
So let me get this straight. This little kid, who likely came from the countryside and didn't have any notable computer skills, somehow created 2 Digi-Eggs. One of them became the big bad of our war game by almost wrecking the internet, And once our heroes defeated it, it somehow became a magical whirlwind virus that scooped up and infected Kokomon? Look, the original version of Hurricane Touchdown wasn't Oscar-worthy, but it's not so bad that it deserved getting stitched together with 2 other movies to fit into a wider but ill-fitting story. Willis's explanation for why things are the way they are sounds more like fan theories or speculation, and it sounds very dumb and niche for a movie that's shown in theaters. There are just so many leaps and bounds to say that a kid created 2 whole-ass villain characters on his own. But that's not the worst of it. Remember how I praised Davis's understandable reaction over the worst-case scenario of having to fight their own partner Digimon?
That's the saddest story I ever heard.
I'm the one with the problem, not you. Get over it.
Okay.
What do you even say about this? He just told Davis to get over it, and Davis was perfectly fine with it. It's not supposed to be that cut and dry. Anyway, Terriermon overheard Willis and wants to help him, both as a pet and as a friend. They make it to the flower field, which is where the original team is supposed to be in the other dimension, who are catatonically lying down at this point. Kokomon's spirit was supposed to be checking on each Digidestined in the hopes of finding Willis. Willis admits that there's no going back to the warm relationship they used to have with each other. They can only relate to one another as they are now, which leads to the final battle. Or, in the Saban dub, they just quickly breeze through that so they can get to it. Wendigomon digivolves into Anteliamon, while Davis, Yoli, and Cody digivolve their partners. In the original, we keep seeing this thing's face, and it does have a really creepy vibe to it, especially during attacks.
Cargo pellets!
Things get heated when Anteliamon digivolves into Kirpimon, also called Cherubimon, and brings everyone into the negative zone or something. This is supposed to represent the hatred and despair Kokomon felt from being abandoned and alone, but whatever narrative significance the original scene had is completely lost here. Kirpimon forces our heroes as Digimon to revert back to their weaker forms, but TK and Kairi finally show up with Angemon and Angelwomon to turn the tides. Here's where I can kinda see how Kirpimon and Diaboromon could be related, because Kairi senses a mysterious force in the original that does suggest a virus that corrupted Kokomon and made it despair in whatever kind of world it was in. Regardless, Kirpimon starts de-aging everyone in the Null Sphere.
Davis, you're a baby! Nah, I'm a baby!
They're babies!
In the original, it's just part of the despair Kokomon felt and the desire for things to go back to the way things were. There is a potentially interesting theme about nostalgia and its pitfalls, but here, it's about literally going back in time to stop the virus before it got its hands on Kokomon. Sure, why not? Angemon and Angelwomon can't defeat Kirpimon in their current forms, so it's time for them to digivolve into Seraphimon and Magnadramon. This is a pretty rare occurrence because we only get to see that again years later in Digimon Adventure Tri, but here... And yes, this is the same in the original, but the actual reason for these Digivolutions is to bring forth the Golden Digi-Eggs of Miracles. This is how Vmon becomes Magnamon, while Terriermon becomes Rapidmon. Both do major damage, but Kirpimon heals through their attacks, so all that's left is for them to destroy the final boss from within. They are initially swallowed up, much to the horror of our heroes, but the new team of Digidestined do not break by showing resolve to keep up the fight. This buys Magnamon and Rapidmon time to find what they were looking for, which was a part of Kokomon's good self. In the original, he more or less begs them to destroy him to save everyone, but the Saban dub has him be like, destroy, as in, we must destroy the virus. No shit. The Saban dub cuts out Kokomon being vaporized, and we just skip to the part where Kirpimon starts transforming from evil to good. In the original, he disappears without saying a word, but here he gets a line in.
Thank you.
After the victory, Vmon and Terriermon come back to their partners. In the original, Terriermon promises Willis that Kokomon went out smiling, But in the Saban dub, we just fade to black before jumping to Davis, giving hope to Willis that Kokomon will come back someday. So it's time to wrap things up. In the original, they just mentioned how the OG cast returned to normal, though we don't even get to see them. But here it's just the new Digidestined wishing Willis well and hoping they'll cross paths again. Willis flirts with Yoli and Kairi one more time before running off and calling his mom to tell her that he's okay. And as the movie winds down, they sense a Digi-Egg nearby and decide to chase after it. In the original, the credits would play and the last image we see is the trio reunited, but now Kokomon is in its rookie form, Lopmon. Those three would even briefly appear in the 2023 movie Digimon Adventure 02 The Beginning, but that's way down the line. Now guess what Saban did?
Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on.
He's tone deaf.
Stars break the mold.
Look, is it a little anticlimactic for death to feel cheap, even for Digimon that can return in egg form? Yes, but at least there's a feel-good moment and is preferable to whatever the hell this conclusion is. Like, okay, the original Hurricane Touchdown is pretty lackluster when it comes to its story and character development. It has some things going for it, especially the action scenes in the final battle, but it lacked a lot of emotional weight because there wasn't enough time to establish Willis's relationship with Kokomon, which could have made us sympathize when things sour between the two. It's one of those features that actually should have been longer for that reason rather than be shorter. We needed a better explanation on why Kokomon suddenly turned evil after disappearing for no reason, because chalking it up to some unknown power isn't gonna cut it. Personally, that plot point reminded me of O2's Dark Ocean subplot, although that was barely explored and was only ever mentioned again years later in Digimon Adventure Tri. And any possible themes about not succumbing to nostalgia and accepting that things can't go back to what they once were went out the window when we see Kokomon coming back. But as mediocre as Hurricane Touchdown was in its original form, the Saban dub for it in Digimon the Movie made things worse. Willis wasn't compelling enough to serve as a greater scope character to 3 different movies, and it's laughable to consider him as the mysterious hand between all 3 stories. He's also not the best fit with the O2 Adventure team, even with Davis despite initially connecting over the worst case scenario of having to fight against a partner Digimon. To make matters worse, he also took time away from the main Digidestined characters from O2. And don't get me started on how Seraphimon and Magnadramon were wasted. Even if their real objective was to produce the Digi-Eggs of Miracles, they deserve to do something cool before losing priority to a boring one-shot character. The animation for the Hurricane Touchdown segment is at least good, though a step down from either our War Game or the Digimon Adventure movie. The only other nice thing I could say is that Digimon the Movie also made a modest profit as a theatrical release. Roughly $16 million at the box office versus a $5 million budget. But the Saban dub had to take things too far with its licensed music that it makes 4Kids look decent by comparison. I am aware that some people have put together a version of the new dub that uses the Saban music, and I mean that's fine if you like it, but there's a reason why the new dub uses the original tracks. So put together, we have one long movie with 3 different storylines that is hard to understand for newcomers, a confusing and singular plot thread that has no right binding all 3, and a very jarring ending. I may still have some fondness for the old Saban dub, because that's the medium through which I became a Digimon fan, but this is easily one of their worst attempts at dubbing to ever occur. If you ever want to see any of this movie in English, then try to hew closer to the original Japanese dialogue. They're far more satisfying than this sad excuse for a movie that had no business trying to go mainstream via theaters. Okay, next time we... Ow! Now what? No. I'll do you after the next movie, okay? Just let me have this.
All circuits are busy. Try
Come
again
on,
later.
how could that be busy too?
All circuits are still busy.
Don't tell me.
Didn't you hear me?
But
It's busy!
I'm sorry, lady.